my binder in the car. Do you have extra copy? Yes, we are on page 28. So, someone reads. Arsalan, you read. Yalla, bismillah. Yeah, page 28. قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى فإن الفرقة الناجية أهل السنة والجماعة يؤمنون بذلك كما يؤمنون بما أخبر الله به في كتابه من غير تحريف ولا تعطيل ومن غير تكييف ولا تمثيل، بل هم الوسط في فرق الأمة كما أن الأمة هي الوسط في الأمم، فهم وسط في باب صفات الله سبحانه وتعالى بين أهل التعطيل الجهمية وأهل التمثيل المشبهة، وهم وسط في باب أفعال الله بين الجبرية والقدرية، وفي باب وعيد الله بين المرجئة والوعيدية من القدرية وغيرهم.
The people of the Sunnah and the community believe these things as they believe what Allah revealed in His precious book, the Quran. They believe without distorting or denying it, without asking how takyif or shaping tamtheel. Rather, they comprise the center of the groups of the Ummah, the Muslim nation, as the Ummah comprises the center of all nations. With regards to the attributes of Allah, the glorified and the exalted, they comprise the center between the denying Jahmiyyah and the people who shape and create likeness, and they comprise the center between the Qadariyah and the Jabriyah with regards to the acts of Allah the Exalted, and between the Murji'ah and the Maridiyah of the Qadariyah and others with regards to Allah's threat, and between the Haruriyah and the Mu'tazila, and between the Murji'ah and the Jahmiyyah with regards to the names of faith and religion, and between the Rawafid and the Khawarij with regards to the Prophet's companions.
Yeah. All this missing in the Arabic text, so I think it's in the other page, but I gotta find it. طيب. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu. So Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah here said, فَإِنَّ الْفِرْقَةَ النَّاجِيَةَ. Okay, the saved sect or the saved group. And al-Firqah al-Najiyah, he said it here, rahimahullah ta'ala. Why? Because he wants to tell you that it is saved in the dunya and in the akhirah. And as the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that this ummah will be divided into so many groups, and all of them in hellfire except one. So that's the saved one. So it will be saved in the day of judgment. Even this terminology is not something that you find in any text, al-firqat, the saved sect, like this. It was understood from the hadith. Why these terminologies appeared? Why people use terminology like al-firqatu al-najiyah, ahlul hadith, ahlul sunnah, ahlul sunnati wal jama'ah, as-salafiyyun, ahlul athar. All these terminologies happen and appeared, okay, in relation to Aqeedah through the history of Islam. First of all, these terminologies are, some of them are represents the belief of Ahlul Sunnah, and some of them represent the fiqh of Ahlul Sunnah. So for example, when they say Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, Hanbali, mainly they're referring to the what? To the fiqh, basically madhab, that this particular scholar studied under. And the care for naming a person as Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, so forth, came during the Batini states in Egypt, which is known as Ad-Dawlah al-Fatimiyah, or the Ubaydi states. Why? Because they made it forbidden upon any Muslim in Egypt or any area that they rule to study or to possess or to have or to conduct a class about any one of the four madhahib. And if you do, you will be killed. You will be actually executed. So they tried to wipe out this madhahib completely from its existence. And there were extreme Shi'i, Rafidi, extreme Shi'i groups. It's like the Alawis that you have today in Syria, in that level of extremism in their beliefs. So those people, because of this, Ahl Sunnah, it became a reaction. So for a Sunni to identify himself as a Sunni, he must belong, basically became the reaction, a part of the madahib. Saying that you're Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, it means I'm not from the Shia. So Sunnah versus Shia, and the Sunnah is what? Is basically these madahib which are prosecuted by those people. So that's why there is a lot of scholars cared a lot about this to identify themselves as as Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, so forth. Also because at one point in the history of the Ummah, this debate between the madahib became so hot and reached to a level of extreme following and extreme debate that reached to a negative point, that it became, you have to belong to one of the school and you're not part of the other school. To the extent it became so ugly that they will fight one another, they will have endowment. For example, he will make an endowment. He said the only beneficiary of this endowment, or the only people can get from this endowment, the poor who are Hanafi, or the poor students who are Shafi'i, or only can go to sheikhs who's Maliki, or only can go to sheikh who is Hanbali. So it became like that. Guys, it reached so ugly to the level that people, you'll find in some of the books, it says, for example, you are allowed to marry a Christian or a Jewish woman, but you're not allowed to marry a Shafi'i woman. And you will find something in that line. You will find people fighting one another, not praying behind each other. Have 4 imams, 4 jama'ah, 4 adhan, 4 khutbah jumu'ah. They don't pray behind each other. So unfortunately, this is something was very bad in our history, and that make that Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali title become so important. But not that what originally was made for. It was originally started to basically identify that I followed Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. There is no such a date when the title Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, Hanafi appeared. We don't have any specific date. But we know that these titles became so important as a reaction to the Shia state in Fatimi. So that's talking about like 7th century, or 6th century, something in that line, something basically very late in history of Islam, and it grew after that. Hanbali, in the other hand, as a title, it appeared a little bit earlier. The Hanabila is a title that sometimes refer to the people who follow Imam Ahmad's belief, not Imam Ahmad's fiqh. That's why you will see, for example, someone who's Shafi'i in fiqh will say, I'm Hanbali. It's like when we say, I'm from Ahlul Hadith. Even if he's faqih, even if he's not memorizing a hadith or is not going good in the science of hadith, but he said, I'm from Ahlul Hadith, يعني I'm a person who follow the sunnah, accept the sunnah. It became at one point referred to the people who follow the sunnah. So that's why أنا حنبلي ما حييت وإن أمت فوصيتي للناس أن يتحنبلوا. This has nothing to do with fiqh, has to do with Aqeedah. The one who said that, he said, I'm Hanbali to death, and my advice to everybody to be Hanbali. The one who said that as Shafi'i in his fiqh, actually, Al-Harawi rahimahullah, he's not a Hanbali in fiqh for say. He's a Shafi'i, his fiqh is Shafi'i. But he meant like the belief of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, because as we, maybe I told you that before, Inna Allah hafidha ad-deen, Allah protect the deen in two main incidents in history. يوم الردة بأبي بكر ويوم المحنة بأحمد. In the time of Ridda, when people left Islam, Allah protect the essence of Islam by Abu Bakr. And in the day of Al-Ma'mun, when the test happened to the scholars, Allah protect the essence of the Sunnah by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. So going back to these titles, if it's meant to identify the person, he is Khurasani, he is Egyptian, I'm from that part, he is Shafi'i, Maliki, it means I follow this madhab, I study that madhab. All these titles are fine. But if this title is going to lead us to fight one another, to break the unity of the ummah, and we don't marry from each other's and we don't pray behind each other's, these titles are cursed and should not be used. If we're going to use Ahlul Hadith, Ahlul Ra'i to make the ummah divided and to look down upon those people or to criticize, these titles are haram to be used. But if it's used just to identify a methodology, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. But one more thing you have to understand, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, لا يجوز امتحان الناس بأي اسم أو لقب غير ما ورد في الكتاب والسنة. It's not allowed for you to test people and to examine people's faith based on these titles, which is invented. Yani I cannot judge people based on this. So I ask, are you Hanbali? If he said no, it means he's innovator. If he said no, it means he is not a Sunni. If he's no, that is not mu'min. Or I come to someone and said another title, are you from Ahlul Hadith? Are you Salafi? Are you from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? No, I'm not. Doesn't make him directly what? Kafir or not, Sunni or bad or evil. No. You can't judge people based on these new names and new terminology because they are not in the Quran and Sunnah. Okay? But what you test people with, the titles and the names that came in the Quran and Sunnah. Like what? Islam, Iman, Taqwa, Ihsan, Nifaq, Sunnah, Bid'ah. You know, hypocrisy, Kufr, Shirk, Ilhad. And these the titles and the names that came in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's where people should be. You know, these are the ones that you cannot deny. But these titles, Ahlul Sunnah al-Jama'ah, came, and the word Salafiyun also came in the history to identify the people who hold into the Sunnah from the people of Bid'ah. Like I told you before, Ahlul Sunnah al-Jama'ah became a title to differentiate between the Khawarij and the Shia and the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The word as-Salafiyun usually refer to those who follow the way of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his companion versus the one who follow the philosophers and the other schools of philosophy that they followed, Greek philosophers or Roman philosophers, whatever school of philosophy that they are following. So that the words, that's why Imam Daraqutni, when al-Dhahabi wrote his biography, he said, وَكَانَ سَلَفِيًّا لَمْ يَدْخُلْ فِي شَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْكَلَامِ. He used to be a Salafi. He never involved in this philosophical argument. But today, the Salafi terms turn to be used to refer to a very small or some small group of people will call themselves Salafi. And if you don't follow my Shaykh, my way of life, my way of thinking, you are kicked out. So these words, that's why these words, we don't test people with, and we don't promote. We're not here to promote these titles. What we need to promote the titles that came in the Quran and Sunnah, which is Islam, Iman, Ihsan. But you might say, Shaykh, why in history they use these names, Ahlul Sunnah al-Jama'ah, Ahlul Athar? Why didn't just stuck to Islam and Iman? Don't be naive, because everybody said that we are Ahlul Islam. And you cannot say to the Khawarij they are not Muslims. You cannot say to the Mu'tazila they are not Muslims. They are Muslims. But they are Muslims with bid'ah. So you cannot, he said, I'm Sunni. They are Sunni, they're not Shi'i. So that's why they need to make more description, to make it more clear, to make that distinguish clear. Okay? So that's why these names are used through the history. And there is no harm from using these names at all, as long as not using it will cause division. As long as the use of it will not lead to divide the ummah, to basically divide the ummah in the wrong way, not to divide it in the right way. Okay, so basically this is why these names came, and that's why Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah using it. Just one little thing. He said here, Al-Firqatu Najiyah, the safe sect. Why? Because he's going to give you an example of always two extremes. And when you go to the two extreme, you miss the goal. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, this is Siratullah. This is the path to Allah. This is the Sirat, the path that take you to Allah, straightforward. And in the end of that path is Allah and the Jannah. And in the left and the right, there is so many other subul, roads. Okay? if you follow them, what's going to happen? What's going to end up? If this is my goal, okay, this window is my goal. I want to go there. And I go this way. What's going to happen? It might. I go all the way to the parking lot and come back and, you know. But that means it will take me very long routes. And who knows if I come back or not. Or I might never come back. And that's how the bid'ah is. It takes you all the way left and right. You might never reach that goal and you end up in kufr, because bid'ah lead to kufr. Or you might end up, but after a long, basically, detours and get so exhausted carrying all these things on your shoulder, and you basically miss the shortcut, which is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way of the Prophet. So he said, this is the safe sect, safe from going these directions. Okay? It's very interesting the words that he used, rahimahullah. Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they believe in all this, as well as they believe in what Allah have said in His book. Then he gave the words that we explained before. من غير تحريف ولا تعطيل ولا تكييف ولا تمثيل. He mentioned the two groups. The group who do takyif and tamthil, which is saying Allah similar to this, or imagine a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attribute looks like. And the other one who deny basically the attributes of Allah by denying it completely, or by giving it different meanings than what it is appear to be. He said they are in the middle. Okay? قال فهم بل هم الوسط في فرق الأمة. They are the middle in between all the sects of this ummah. So all these sects, okay, all these sects are going to the two extremes. وطرفي الأمور ذميم. The both extremes are always something criticized. Yes.
So we said that.
I would assume this is for me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not supposed to use, titles that are not in the Quran and Sunnah to, judge people. So if someone says that they're Shia, that we shouldn't assume,
Good question. If somebody said he's Shia, I don't immediately judge the person until I ask him, what do you mean by that? If he said Shia, it comes from the loyal and support. So I am a Shia of Ali and I love and support Ali. That's fine. But we tell them, be careful, because the word Shia today, after all these years, developed to carry a very specific meaning, which is the people who reject the Sunnah, the people who reject the Sahaba. So you cannot use that anymore. It's not up to you to use it in the I meant that, unless you explain what you mean. It's like exactly what someone rejected. He said, I'm not from Ahlul Sunnah al Jama'ah. I'm not Salafi. We said, what do you mean by that? He said, I mean these fanatic, jihadi, extremist guys who call themselves Salafi and they make takfir and tabdi' for everybody. Yeah, but you cannot just reject that title, because that title also, it's a title that can mean a person who followed the Prophet's companion, and that carry a positive meaning. So we said, we don't force you to take it, but also you should not deny it and reject it completely, because you might reject the truth as well. Okay? Unless the title became commonly known that it referred to a wrong practice, like Shi'ism today. Nobody in his mind will think of Shi'ism, the type of Shi'ism that exist in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu. That type of Shi'ism does not exist. And I'll talk a little bit about this. Yes?
Just a follow-up. I had a friend Shia, and I actually heard him say the declaration, La ilaha illallah Rasulullah, but then he add on Waleed. Does that become bid'ah only, or is that?
It's bid'ah.
So that is a
Yeah, I mean, Ali waliullah, I do believe Ali is waliullah.
So, but that's the declaration. If you don't say that, you're not a Muslim.
Yes, I don't know if you remember when I told you the Shia, the pillars of Iman for them are four. One of them is al-Imamah, is to believe that there is Imams appointed by God, especially the Ithnai Ashri. So you have to declare that, you have to believe in that. As long as he doesn't believe that the rest of the companion kuffar other than the Ahl al-Bayt or the 7 companion, if he make takfir to Abu Bakr and Umar and the Prophet's wives, that something negate their iman. Anyway, because they reject the Quran basically. Then he said, rahimahullah, they are in the middle when it comes to the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why in the middle when it comes to the names of Allah? Because you have a group who denied the names. And you have another group who said, they affirmed the names, but they said, and the attributes, but they said the names and attributes, it's exactly like us. So they made Allah look like the humans or the creations. And you have people who said denied completely. So those, they worship nothing, and those, they worship idols. They made them like any idol. So that's too extreme. Ahl-Sunnah al-Jama'ah said, no, we understand the meaning, but we don't know or don't understand the kayfiyya, how. We know that He loves. How? We don't know. We don't know how He speaks, but He speaks. How He sees, we don't know, but we know He sees. Versus someone said He doesn't see, or someone He sees like us. That's too extreme. They come in the middle. Also, they became in the middle because you have people who came and they said, He described Allah with negations only. He's not, He's not, He's not, He's not, He's not, He's not. And when it comes to affirmation, they came to say very little. Ahl-Sunnah al-Jama'ah, they said the opposite. Okay? And you have the Mumathila, they didn't negate anything. They said they confirm everything the way it is. Ahl-Sunnah al-Jama'ah said, no. We negate things from Allah the way He negated for Himself, in general terms, not in details, unless it proves the complete opposite. Then the confirmation is the common trend in the Quran and Sunnah that Allah confirm His names and attributes. Also, they are middle in this area between the sects. Why? Because there is people said, only we accept the attributes that our logic confirm. And there is sect, they said, they reject the aql completely. They said, no, nothing from the names of Allah the aql can confirm, so we either reject them or we accept them. Ahl-Sunnah said, no, all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes, you remember what I said? Two circle. It's either the aql said it must be exist, or the aql said it is possible to be exist. Must be exist, yani God must be knowledgeable. Al-aql lead to this, that He has knowledge. He must be alive, cannot be dead. That's right. So, also, you know what? He make you tall, and you make him short. He make him rich, and make the other one poor. He give him a boy, you give her a girl. What that means? He has will. عنده مشيئة. He gives whatever He wants, whatever He will to whomever He wants, and so forth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically rewards. Okay, give you Jannah, that means He loves you. If He rewards you and He give you, that shows His love, logically, and so forth. So then you have other ones, which is aql doesn't necessarily prove it. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, for example, a hand, or He is on a throne, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laugh, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, what else? Most of these attributes, okay, it's something the aql doesn't deny it, but in the same time doesn't say it's wajib. And they said that the Ahl-Sunnah middle, that they said whatever Allah and His Messenger describe Him with, it should be accepted. Then he said, and they are also in the middle. في أفعال الله, when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's actions, between Al-Jabriyyah wal-Qadariyah. And this is something we will talk more about it in a little bit. But he said between Al-Jabriyyah wal-Qadariyah. Al-Jabriyyah, yes.
Just a clarification. If, as Muslims, we're commanded to believe that whatever is in the Quran and Sunnah has to be Sahih, and there can be no dispute in this matter, why would Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah even open the door that the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be those that are must exist and those that possibly could exist?
They didn't initiate that talk. We just said this to refute what the Ash'ari and other people claimed, that they said the Aql only proves 7 names, that's why we approve it, and the rest we didn't approve before because the Aql doesn't approve it. So we tell them the Aql, if it doesn't approve it like as must, Al-Aql still don't reject it. They thought it either the Aql said it must be exist or it's impossible to be. We said no, there is a third category. Yeah. But we didn't initiate that methods. Ahl Sunnah, they don't prove the sifat this way. It just came as a replying to the talk of Ahl al-Kalam. Also, so here we say Al-Jabriyyah wal-Qadariyah. Al-Jabriyyah comes from Al-Jabr, which it means force to do something. Okay? So, and Al-Qadariyah, it means the people who deny Al-Qadar. So they called Qadariyah, but it means Nufat al-Qadar, the one who deny that Allah decreed anything. So one group, they said Allah, the first group, they affirm Al-Qadar. Okay? They confirm the Qadar. And they're so extreme that they make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only that He decreed everything, they made Allah as the doer of everything. And they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the real doer of everything. And He forced everyone into their actions. Okay? And you have no choice. You absolutely have no choice. Everything that you do, it is something that you are forced to do. So me reaching out to this coffee, it's not my choice. Even if I don't want to drink it, I am forced to do it. Why? Because Allah decreed upon me. And Allah now forcing me to do it. And the other people said, no, you know what? Drinking this coffee, Allah has nothing to do with it. Even if Allah doesn't want me to drink the coffee, I don't care, I'll drink it. He doesn't have any power over my will. I'm completely independent from Allah. So you have two extreme groups. I don't like to pick on Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, but if there is anything I pick on him in teaching, when I'm teaching Al-Wasatiyyah for a very long time, this word, that I think it will be more accurate if Ibn Taymiyyah said, وَهُمْ وَسَطٌ فِي أَفْعَالِ الْعِبَادِ, not أَفْعَالُ اللَّهِ. It will be more accurate if the wording was, they are middle, in the middle, when it comes to the actions of the people, or the action of the creations. He said the action of Allah. And actually the Jabriya and the Qadariyya, the talk that he mentioned here, or he was talking about, is the action of us. It's not the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's somehow linked, because in the end of the day they said the Jabriya believe that your action is Allah's action. But the Qadariyya don't. So it worked halfway only for him. You know? But anyway, that just if you want to be picky. I'm picky because he made that challenge, rahimahullah.
All the people that you learned from, did they mention?
No. No. They never pay attention to stuff like that. Yes. Some of them, like one of my teacher, had this, even Shurrah al-Wasatiyyah, I never come across anyone pointed out. Yes.
So in the wording of Alillah, should have...
Yeah, if you want to be more accurate, yeah. But I couldn't find in any copy of Al-Wasatiyyah, written copies, maybe there is a mistake. Ibn Taymiyyah very picky about his words in this book. But anyway, did you get why I said Af'al al-Ibad is more accurate? Because I just explained to you with the coffee. It's all about the action of the people. Okay? So here you have the first type of Jabriya. The Jabriya, the first group, who said that you are forced into your action. You are what? Forced into your action. There are two levels. Jabriyatu Mahda, okay? And we call them Jabriya fi al-Zahir wal-Batin. basically this, and they are the Jahmiyyah, like Al-Jahm ibn Safwan and his people. They said that your action is absolutely nothing but something that you are forced into it. Okay? So you have no choice. You are like a feather, they said, you are like a feather that you throw it in the wind, and the wind flipped the feather. Do the feather have any control over itself? Does the feather decide where to land? Exactly, that's you. You have no control over your life. You have not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically move you in the same way the wind moved the feather. And even they have a poet or a line of poetry that they use, or it's been used in this regard. They said that if this is the case, everything that you do or you don't do, you don't really have any control over it. So if somebody steal, somebody fornicate, somebody drink, somebody kill, somebody did kufr, he didn't really do it. The one who did it is Allah. The reality is that Allah did that, not the person. So if this is the case, they said, and that lead to a bigger problem. So how there is taklif, how there is do and don'ts in Islam. And they said, we with Allah, like this example, ألقاه في اليم مكتوفا وقال له إياك أن تبتل بالماء. He tied his hand and you threw him in the water, then you tell him, hey, don't get wet. He said, that's us and Allah. Allah telling us don't get wet. But he tied our hand and he threw us in the river or in the water. And that led these two people to, this is a problem. How to solve this problem? That led this group to split. Some of them said, yes. Because in the end of the day, that's not fair. That's right. If I'm not the doer, why would I be held accountable? They said there is no concept of justice and injustice for God. They said basically everybody go to hellfire or paradise is not the result of their action. It is the result of Allah's will. And Allah's will is perfect. So Allah, He willed for you to go to paradise. It doesn't matter what you do. He willed for you to go to hellfire. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is that He willed that. Done deal. There's no wisdom. That's why they deny wisdom. They deny reasoning. They don't believe in anything like that. They said it's just a pure will. You got it? The other group, because of this, they went to another extreme. They said, no, we're not going to deny the rules, or we say that the doers is Allah. And the doer of everything is, the reality is Allah. So if this is the case, it means everybody is good. They just deny the concept of the hereafter, paradise and hellfire. So they said, everybody is a real believer. So when you commit shirk, you actually fulfilling the will of Allah. So you are an obedient servant. Because you are an instrument to represent the greatest wisdom and will of God. So you are part of that big play or that show. So you know what, you're doing good. And you don't believe it. Some of them even said that shows you that Pharaoh was more knowledgeable and knowing of Allah than Musa. Because Pharaoh understands the role that God wants. While Musa was among the people who take things literally. He thinks that, you know what, that's Sharia has to be fulfilled. While Pharaoh, he understood the deep root of it. And that's why those people through history, you will, if you read, for example, to Al-Baghdadi in Al-Batiniyyah, who took this to the next level, they said there is really no difference between drinking Zamzam or wine. There is no difference between a mother and a daughter and any woman. They are all as halal as you want. If you want, you want. If you don't want, you don't want. There is no difference between a man and a woman. There is no difference between, and if you object to that, you object to the will of God. And I mentioned to you, Ibn Kathir even said, when a man walked into the house and he saw somebody sleeping with his wife, and he basically about to strike them, he said, Amadhab ibn Abbas, are you following Ibn Abbas? This is the will of God. He said, Raditu billah, I accept the will of God. Continue your job. And he left. So they took this to this level. So you have a very extreme Sufi groups, and that's where the idea of Allah is everything and everything is Allah. Because the idea was in the beginning, the doer is Allah. But the Sufi, this extreme Sufi said that Allah, how can be the doer? He must be part of it. It must be all this creation part of God. Because He is the doer. They believe in the concept of Jabr. But how to explain Jabr? That's not just Allah force you. They said, no, because Allah is you and you are Allah. So whatever you do is basically Allah. That's why they said, إن قلت عبد فذاك رب وإن قلت رب فأنا يكلف. If you say He's a servant, but in reality He's a God. And if He's a God, how can you ask Him to do things? How can you tell Him halal and haram? There is no halal and haram for God. So everything is okay for the person. So this is the extreme Jahmis. See how evil and far this idea goes. Then you have among the Jabriya, okay, who felt shy to go that far. Okay? Felt like this is too much. So but their principles goes in the same line of the principles of those people. The problem, they have the same principles, but they have iman and taqwa and fear from Allah to come to the same conclusion, which is al-asha'ira and all this Ahl al-Kalam. They are nothing but Jabriya when it comes to al-Qadr. And that's it was a big issue. So they have to distinguish themselves. So they came up with the concept, and Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari rahimahullah came up with the concept, he called it al-Kasb. What we call them Jabriyatun fi al-Zahir, fi al-Batin la fi al-Zahir. What is al-Kasb? We'll talk more about it maybe later. It depends on the mood of the students and the teacher. Okay? Al-Kasb, it is something that you will find the Ash'ari, for example, Jaharat al-Tawheed, al-Laqani, he mentioned in the Sharh of this is the reference, number one reference in modern Ash'ari days, more than 20 explanations for it. And all of them, they don't really agree with each other. And it's been said, مما يقال ولا حقيقة تحته معقولة تدنو إلى الأذهان الكسب عند الأشعري والحال عند البهشمي وطفرة النظام. Three concepts appeared in the history of Islam. Okay, all these three concepts, the people who came up with it themselves couldn't explain it. The people who made this bid'ah, they couldn't understand it themselves. That's why the debate became like impossible to be understood. And part of it, al-Kasb and طفرة النظام and al-Ahwal عند البهشمي. Anyway, al-Ahwal عند البهشمي طفرة النظام has to do with the Day of Judgment. But al-Kasb, what is al-Kasb? What's the idea? They said al-Kasb, it means that you are in reality, you have no choice. In reality, you have absolutely no choice. You are doing things which is Allah forcing it into you. He willed it, so you are into it. But it looks like you have a choice. It looks like that it is your own choice. But the reality is it's not yours. Can you give us an example? They give an example. They said, it's like when you go into a rock stuck between two rocks. Then you come and you carry it. You carry it from underneath. And you take a picture of yourself. Or somebody see you. And aren't you literally carrying it? Yes and no. Because I'm putting my hand.
Doesn't mean you're carrying it.
But it looks like that. That's right. You're putting some effort. Is in reality your effort really making carried? No. But isn't there some effort? Yes. So he said that's how you are. They said, another example. If I bring a knife, and I go with this knife through the apple, which one cut the apple? The knife or your hand? They said, it looks like the knife, but the reality is the hand. They said, you are the knife and Allah is the hand.
Who's the apple?
The apple is the action that is executed, that happened. So they say, you really look like have a choice, but the reality is you don't have a choice. So that's the most simple way I can explain it to you, how those people believe. Then in the other hand, you have people who denied Al-Qadr. It's a complete reaction to this idea. What is the reaction? The other group. The other group say a complete affirmation for the Qadr. These guys went to what? Rejection. So you have in the time of the Sahaba, radiallahu, in the end of the time of Sahaba, this concept of Al-Qadariyah. They said, you know what? Allah He didn't force anyone to anything. Because Allah doesn't even know about things until it takes place. Not that Allah forced you into it. They said Allah doesn't even know what happened until it happened. They said because if He knew about it before, He will be responsible for it. So we want to free God from this. So He said He doesn't know about it until it took place. And those who appeared in the end of the time of the Sahaba, and that's why Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar said, let them know that I'm free of them, they are free from me, I will never witness their janazah, you cannot witness my janazah. Basically they are kuffar. They don't believe that Allah knows things, He denies Allah's knowledge. And Al-Qadr is all, first of all, about Allah's ilm and knowledge. So those people who, this is the extreme, this is the ad-darajah al-ulya, the extreme group among the people who reject Al-Qadr, okay, who said Al-ilm musta'naf, inna al-amra unuf, and it was mentioned in Sunan Abi Dawud, the story of the beginning of those people. And historically speaking, this idea came earlier than the other one in Islam. So the idea of denying Al-Qadr appeared on the Muslim world before the idea of the Jabr, that people have been forced. And it appeared a lot after the invasion of Mecca, when the Kaaba was destroyed, and during Ibn Zubayr time, where people start asking the question of when Al-Kaaba was burned and destroyed, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about that or He didn't? Is it God's will or not? Obviously, if you deny the ilm of Allah, you deny the will of Allah. That's right. If He doesn't know about it, it means He never milled it. It means He never made it or created it. If He created it, means He knows about it. If He willed it, means He knows about it. So denying the knowledge requires denying everything else. That's right. Makes sense? So that's why they are consistent in that sense, at least. That's one group. They said, no, God didn't know about that the army will destroy His house. He get to know about it afterwards. This is similar to some of the idea that, you know, God didn't know about the flood, that it will destroy the world, and cry after it, and regret it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so another group came later and said, wow, this is extreme. You can say that. You can say God doesn't know things up until happen. Denying the knowledge of Allah is unacceptable. What kind of God who doesn't know things? So they come and they said, so what we do, they said we confirm the knowledge. so Allah knows about it. Okay? And they said, as for the will, He really have a general will. Okay? But not specifically to the incident. So that incident, that particular incident, your detailed incident, your detailed action, not something willed by God. And the most important thing, that is never created by God. Because if God created it, it means He forced you into it. If God created your will, your actions, it means God responsible for it. And if God responsible for it, He cannot punish you for it. And if He cannot punish you for it, we have to deny that we're going to end up like the first group. So they said, what's the solution? The solution said, God knows about it, but He never created it. So they said that He is not the creator of everything. So you are the one who create your own actions. And those known in the history as Al-Mu'tazila, they are the one who was debating Imam Ahmad, the son Quran is a creation of Allah, and so forth. So, I said 18 explanation for Al-Kasb, it's 12 in the explanation of Al-Kasb. Anyway, I go back to the point here. So that's basically the mind of Qadariyah. The mind was to the Mu'tazila. Al-Sunnah al-Jama'ah look into this and said, they are in the middle. So the first one said you are forced into your action. The other one said you create your own action. One see your action is Allah's action, and the other one say Allah has nothing to do with your action. Somebody deny completely that you have any will, and someone said your will is completely independent from Allah. While Ahl Sunnah al-Jama'ah said, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا إِن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. As simple as that, the Quran says. Whatever you will, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed it. Because nothing happened in this world except with Allah's will. إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُن. Anything happen, it is by the order of Allah. So that means anything happen, it's created by Allah. So every movement, everything, every thing that you do, خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. He created you and what you do. So the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, clear, as simple as that. So how Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah come to them? They said, Allah, how can your actions become your actions but in the same time created by God? Simple. They said, they are your actions because you made that choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't force you to make the choice. That's why He said, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ أَثْبَتَ لِلْعَبْدِ مَشِيئَةً. He confirmed that you have a will, but your will happen according to the general will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah doesn't want you to do something, He will not let you do it. But He let you do it because He allowed it to happen. He willed it as well as a general will. الْمَشِيئَةَ وَالْإِرَادَةَ الْكَوْنِيَّةَ. Okay, so here we say, but you have your own will as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that power. And it is your action because, how can it be created by Allah? Because Allah created you. Who created your hand? Allah. Who created your mouth? Allah. Who created your will? Allah. Who created your brain? Allah. So because it's created by Allah, everything comes out of it also belong to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it doesn't mean that He is the actor. Subhan. You are the actor for it. It's not like, so you might say, what's the difference between this and the kasb? Abu al-Hasan rahimahullah, al-kasb, he denied that you have the will. He denied that this can attribute to you. But we say, no, it is your actions. That's why you will be completely, and you absolutely have the free will to make the choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will and knowledge will never force you into something. My hand is not like by force moving left and right. I made the choice to move it. I can stop it anytime I want. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold me accountable for my action. If I drink with my right hand, I follow the sunnah. If I drink with my left hand, I'm not following the sunnah. I made the choice to choose which hand to drink with. That's why you will be held accountable for your actions. And nobody can say God should be responsible for the actions. And I always give the students an example. I say, if you go and purchase a gun, okay, then a gun, and you go and you shoot someone, then you go in front of the judge, and the judge tell you, you are basically charged with murdering so and so. I said, I didn't kill him. Who killed him? The gun. What do you mean? He said, go ask the one who manufactured the gun. They're responsible for it. Is that argument acceptable? No. Same thing, if Allah created you, what you use your eyes with, what you use your tongue with, it is your choice. Yes, the factory made the gun, but what you do with the gun, it's your choice. How you use this gun, it's your choice. Is that clear? So that's why the same thing. You have the will, you have the free will to make whatever decision. But this doesn't separate the fact that you are made by Allah, created by Allah. You belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the same time, He gives you the will to make the choice that you want. Being created by Allah doesn't mean that everything you do, it has to be Allah's direct action. They don't understand the difference between al-fi'l wal-maf'ul. Okay? Which is the actor, and being Allah the creator of your body and your actions, which doesn't require to make Him the actor of your actions. If that makes sense to you. We have a very simple term in Arabic, so I have to say this long sentence to you. In Arabic we say, your actions فعلك وهي مفعول لله. بس مفعولات الله. Anyway, so you have this basically, Ahl Sunnah became in the middle. So they believe in the ilm, in the will, in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they believe that you have a will, and you believe that you have a choice, but it doesn't make you independent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's Ahl Sunnah came in the middle between these two groups. Yes?
When the Mutakallimun, when they said the fire doesn't burn, is this where they're coming from?
Yeah. So if you look at most of the books of tafsir that you have in your hand, they will never say, this happened because of this. You would never see that. They said, rain does not cause the vegetable to grow or the grass to grow. Your deeds doesn't lead to Jannah. They refuse that because Allah is the only door for them. This is the Jabriya. Anyway, then he said they are in the middle between, okay, and when it comes to the wa'id of Allah, the threat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa'id, the threat of punishment, between the Haruriyah, بين الحرورية والمعتزلة وبين المرجئة والجهمية. Let's have a break and we come back to talk about this, to explain it more.
This sentence is not in our... It's not in Arabic.
No, it's not in their text, in the Arabic, that's missing. There's a whole 3 lines, but in the English it is there. I'll break, inshallah, for 10 minutes and come back. Yeah, I explain a little bit more on the Qadar because we're going to talk about Al-Qadar so we can read fast because I explain a lot of things that he will talk about. Then he said, and they are in the middle between in the middle between al-murj in the wa'idullah. Wa'idullah is a threat to punish. Okay, so the wa'id is when Allah said, yet He will punish by hellfire for doing this and that. Between two group, al-haruriyya wal-mu'tazila, and al-murji'ah and al-wa'idiyya min al-qadariyya. كذا الوعيدية من القدرية. I think it's جهمية بين المرجئة والجهمية.
In the matan is بين المرجئة والجهمية.
Yeah, that's what I know. Wa'idiyya is wrong. Okay, so just in English, what is that says?
Between the
Murja and the Wa'idiyya of the Qadariyya.
to Allah subhanahu.
Let me just find it. Where is it?
No, it's in Waleed.
Okay, so it says, yeah, it says here.
So there's a part that's missing. There's Bab Wa'id and Bab Iman. It combines the two.
Okay, and between the Haruriyya and Mu'tazila, and between Murji'ah and Jahmiyya, with regarding the name of faith and religion. No, we don't want this. We want, where is the one before? And between the Qadariyya and the Jabriyya, with regard to the acts of Allah, and between the Murji'ah, okay, and between, you know what, whoever wrote this English, it should be one, each one in one line, separate line, and between the Murji'ah and the Wa'idiyya of the Qadariyya, what? Anyway, I will translate it. And when it comes to the wa'id, the threaten of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between the murji'ah and between the wa'idiyyah min al-qadariyyati wa ghayrihim. Okay, so here we good. And when it comes to the threat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is between al-murji'ah and the wa'idiyyah min al-qadariyyati wa ghayrihim. Al-wa'idiyyah min al-qadariyyah, which it means here the mu'tazila. So here, and the Murji and the Khawarij as well. He said in this regard, they are in the middle. What in this regard? The threat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah said, if you do this, you will be punished by the hellfire. You have two groups. Guys, pay attention to me. One group said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you do this sin, you will be punished in hellfire. وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَإِنَّ لَهُ نَارَ جَهَنَّمَ. If you commit a sin, your punishment is the hellfire. They said, so if you do any major sin, one group said, you must go to hellfire. There is no way to escape that. And you go to hellfire, and you must enter the hellfire. And no way to be forgiven. And some of them, they said that if this is the case, they said if it's a major sin, that will be even worse. And that will come next, to the next group. Okay? Any sin. If you commit a sin, okay? And they said if you commit a sin to Allah, you must be punished for it.
What's the name of this group?
This is among a version of the Khawarij, the people who be extreme in the threat. I'm not sure if there is anyone in particular that I can point out to that level, any sin to that level. But as a generally speaking, they said, Allah la yukhlifu, in the Khawarij, they said, Allah will never break a promise that He made. So if He promised that He will punish you, He will punish you. It cannot be forgiven. Then the other group said, no. If you have faith, if you have iman, if you believe in God, And faith for them is what? Is just, they are levels. Some of them, faith for them is to know that Allah exists. Some of them, faith for them is to believe in God and to know that He's true. If you have that, no matter what you do from sin, you will never be punished for it. So if you believe in God this way, there is no way you will be ever punished by the threat of Allah. So all the ayat, all the verse about Allah threatened, if you do this, you'll be punished, has to do to the disbelievers. If you have the belief, you should not worry about hellfire completely. And on the other hand, people said, if you have all the iman in the world, but you do a one sin or two, you must go to hellfire. So Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah come in the middle between these two. In the middle between these two. And they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala threat to punish is a threat that it can take place, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself can forgive. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He forgive, that's not breaking promise. That's not a breaking promise, because breaking promises is bad if the promise is meant for reward. But the breaking the promise for punishment is considered a mercy. If I tell to my son, okay, I promise you that, there is no game today. Then he behaved very well, said, you know what, you behaved well, you can go play. No iPad today. Okay? But you know what, you behaved good now, you can go play. Is that somebody said, oh, this is a bad parenting, this is like, you're not consistent, No, because he behaved well, he changed his behavior. Don't be stubborn about your punishment. Actually, there's something people praised by. Okay? So, but what is not good is to break your promise of reward. I tell my son, if you behave good, you have $10. So he behaved very well. At the end of the day, did I behave well, Baba? Yes, you did. Do I get $10? No. You get 5. That's bad. Because breaking the promise for reward is different than breaking the promise for punishment. And that's why Allah لا يخلف الميعاد ولا يخلف وعده. But Allah يخلف وعيده. Allah break the promise, the threat, for threat. But Allah will never break the promise of reward or a promise of something that it will happen. If that will happen, it will happen. Even if it's not a threat. Okay? So there is a day of judgment, there is a day of judgment. It's not like one day Allah said, hey, by the way, I changed my mind about judgment. That will never happen. Is that clear? And because people don't understand the difference between the two, they mix between the two. So Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they said, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, He punished for sins if He wish, but the only sin that Allah will never forgive is shirk. Anything less than shirk, it might be forgiven by Allah, or might be forgiven by one of the things that forgive the sins. Like what? Repentance, intercession, type question. Now those people who said, you must go to hellfire, no way you gotta, this, they don't deny intercession. They don't believe in intercession at all. Because they said it goes against the promise. Punishment means punishment. Okay? And for Ahl Sunnah said no, it can be intercession, tawbah, istighfar, someone else make dua for you. You basically purify from your sin by the calamity that you go through. So all these things can purify you from your sins. So Ahl Sunnah al-Jama'ah are middle between the two extremes. As for the extreme who said, if you have faith, you should not worry about sins at all. At all. Those also extreme. Ahl Sunnah said, no, you should worry about your sin. Because you might be punished for your sin. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us in many hadith about people who will go to hellfire for sins that they commit. Like stealing or using usury or lying or things of that nature. And those two groups, we call them Wa'idiyah. Wa'idiyah comes from Wa'id, which it means punishment, the threat of punishment. And you have Wa'diyah, comes from the Wa'd, which it means the promise for reward. Okay? So we are middle between Wa'idiyah and Wa'diyah, between Murji'ah, who basically believe that there is no matter, and doesn't matter what sin that you commit as long as you have Iman. يقولون لا يضر مع الإيمان ذنب. If you have Iman, no sin can ever affect your Iman. Then he said, and they are middle when it comes to the name of Al-Iman. قال, and they are between the Haruriyya and Mu'tazila and between the Murji'ah and Jahmiyyah with regard to the names of faith and religion. This is a chapter in books of Aqeedah. It's called the chapter of Al-Asma' wal-Ahkam, titles and rulings. This is one of the most important chapters in the science of Aqeedah. This is where the first division in Islam took place. That's the first bid'ah happened in Islam in this area. That's the first split. This is the first crack. This is the first sects, the early sects that appear because of this issue. So it is absolutely fundamental for you as a student of knowledge to understand this. Names and rulings. In Islam, there are certain titles and names, and these titles and names has rulings that comes with it. So if I give you the title and the name of Al-Islam, that comes with it certain rules, certain rights, certain responsibilities, certain promises. That's right. If I give you the name of Al-Iman, Al-Ihsan, Al-Taqwa, Al-Wilayah, Wali, I give you the name of A'udhu Billah of Kafir, Mushrik, Kafir, non-believer, Mushrik, Munafiq, a name of Mubtadi', innovator. There is rules comes with that. The rules of the kafir, the rules of the murtad, person who upside from Islam. So these are rules that associated with these titles. But in the beginning, we need to understand who deserves the title Muslim, who deserves the title Mu'min, who deserves the title Muttaqi, who deserves the title Wali, who deserves the title Kafir, Murtad, a person who is Mushrik, a person who's innovator, a person who is Sunni, and so far. So these are the titles and its ruling, and that's where the beginning of the whole entire, basically, fasiq as well. That's a very important name as well. Who is considered fasiq and what fasiq means? So he said, فهم وسط, they are in the middle in this regard, between Al-Haruriyyah wal-Mu'tazila. Al-Haruriyyah comes from the word Harawra, which is a city in Al-Kufa. Harawra, it's a small city in Iraq where all the Khawarij gathered and basically against Ali radiallahu anhu arda. So Ali radiallahu anhu was engaged in war for a very long time with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Muawiyah and Ali radiallahu, for years they've been fighting each other. It's estimated hundreds of thousands of people die in these battles. I mean that literally. Okay? So to the extent that it's been said, if this war would continue a little bit longer, okay, women will not have men to marry them. That's been said that. Women will not be having a men, even if every man marry 4 women, will not be enough. The men left. So women will not have any husbands. And because of the amount of people who died, men who died in this constant war between the two groups, until these two groups came to an agreement. Okay? This agreement is to stop the war and for 1 year they have a break and they come back next year in Ramadan, and they appointed people to make a deal, a peace between them. So there is a group of people who were with Ali radiallahu anh. They said, how come that you will agree to someone to rule between you and Muawiyah? And the only one who rules between people is Allah. So Ali said, okay, you want to know how? Come to me after Asr. So they entered to his tent many of them, so many of them. And they filled up the tent, and they were outside. They opened the tent from the side, so it was like huge number of people. And Ali radiallahu anhu had a copy from the Mus'haf. And he said, okay, tell us. He said, ask him. Who? This. Who's this? He said, this. The Mus'haf. Hold it and ask it. Then he told the Mus'haf, answer them. And they said, are you mocking us? You crazy? Yani, what's wrong with you? We're asking you, how can you accept other than Allah to rule between you and me? He said, that's exactly what I'm asking the Mus'haf to answer you. They said, you know that the Mus'haf cannot talk to us. He said, so what? Who will talk to you? Someone. So that's the same concept. You're saying, how can I agree to make a human being to judge between us? And you say, Allah judge. Allah will talk to us. Allah talk to us through the Quran. So the Quran will speak, or Allah himself will come down to be the judge. If you're referring to the Quran, you need someone who knows the Quran. If that's what you're referring to Allah to be the judge, which Allah said in the Quran. So by referring to someone who read the Quran, understand the Quran. And that's what I did. I referred to the matter to people who read the Quran, understand the Quran, and that's why they are judging between us according to what's in the Quran. They said, you're getting all this. No, only Allah the judge, and this is like... Then they said, you know what? You're kafir. Why? Because you are ruling with other than the Sharia. Why? The Sharia said that Muawiyah and his group are bughah, are basically transgressor, and the transgressor must be fought. We should fight them. So that means we have to fight them, and if you don't do that, you're basically leaving the command of Allah. You leave the command of Allah, you're not a Muslim. So they said, you're not a Muslim, and Muawiyah and his people are not a Muslims. And anyone who will not consider you not a Muslim is not a Muslim. So if you're not with me, with Muawiyah, you're kafir. With Ali, kafir. With not any one of them, you're kafir too. There's no escape. Yani. The only way to escape is to join them. So they got so angry, and they moved, crossed the river to a place, and they gathered in a place called Harawra. And that's where they gathered. And they gathered in large number. There is about now more than 10,000 people at that time gathered in this place. You see how silly the idea is, but you have more than 10,000 people gathered in this place, Harara. And their camps became bigger and bigger and bigger, and they were until they killed someone and his family. The story is not the point to mention it here now. So after that, there is a famous battle took place, and Ali radiallahu anh keep telling the companions, those are the one who the Prophet ﷺ told us to fight. So by now, can you imagine how many war Ali was engaged? Too many, that's right, with Zubair and Talha for years, then here Muawiyah for years. People got kind of tired of this whole war. Then Ali told them, this is not the same type of war that I had before. Those are different, but people are still not really hard to convince, especially when you talk about Harawra. Ali radiallahu anh in this side of the river, and those Khawarij on the other side of the river. Ali's army, they eat and they go to sleep, and those people in the night praying. You hear them reading Quran and crying. You see them so fasting almost every day at Maghrib, all of them gathered and making iftar. They look so pious. So how can you fight people like that? They say La ilaha illallah. They say Muhammad Rasulullah. Not only that, they fast, they pray, they do all this thing. How would you fight people like that? And Ali said, they are not a people of Islam. And Nabi ﷺ said, they are the worst on the face of the earth. And whoever killed them, their reward Jannah. They said, no, you might say, some people make me think he's saying this to encourage us to engage in another war. He said, no. لَأَنْ أَخِرَّ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ I would rather to fall from the heavens to the earth than to lie. I would never lie at the Prophet ﷺ just to promote a political position that I never did and will never do. And he said to them, this army, with them a man known as Dhu Thudayyah, a man that he is known have a very distinguished sign on him, that one of his hands, okay, has no bones in it. He said his hand look at a woman's breast, you know, which is basically no bones in it, and it is basically a woman like Dhu Thudayyah, that's what it means. And he said it's exactly like, it looks like that. And even on there is a detailed description even how it looked like, how it is long, it has a meat on the top of it, looks like the nipple of the breast. And he said the Prophet ﷺ described him. Okay, so when the Ali radhiyallahu anhu fought with them, he said to the companion, look for this man that the Prophet described. They looked for him, they couldn't find him. Ali said, Wallahi, he is here. Look again. They looked a couple of times and they found him covered with other people. And when Ali radiallahu anh saw him, the same exact description that he narrated, which is came the hadith, kabbar, he said Allahu Akbar. And the follower of Ali, the kabbaru, they said Allahu Akbar, because that's the exact army that the Prophet ﷺ said, if I see those people, I will fight them myself. And I will kill them in the same way Allah killed the people of Ad and Thamud, which it means you will wipe them out. That's why Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he fought those group, he didn't take prisoners. He didn't take basically either you back to Islam or you will be killed. He didn't treat them the same way he treated the army of Zubair and Talha or Muawiyah. So Ali did not treat them as a transgressor. He treated them as upstate, as murtaddeen. He treated them in the same manner Abu Bakr treated the people of Ridda. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said that's a very important distinguish to be made between the fight. Why? Because Ali radiallahu anhu didn't strip them from the name of al-Iman wal-Islam at that point. But it doesn't mean that you say, there is a problematic to this, because there is another narration that Ali radiallahu anh said, they are our brothers. When he was asked, are they kuffar? He said, they are running away from kufr. قال هم من الكفر فروا. They try not to be kafir. So how are we going to call them kuffar? They are our brothers who they transgress against us. This is a problematic narration, because this contradicts the way that he treated them, because the way he treated them doesn't show. This is my own theory. You don't need to take that, but this is my own theory, and that's not the common position of the Muslim Sunni theologian, which is that the people of Harawra in that particular battle, they were not Muslims. But the Khawarij in general, they are Muslims. The Khawarij in general, they are Muslims. Okay? And Ali radiallahu anhu maybe said this about them in the beginning of the split. We don't know exactly when he said that. But after he was clear to him that they are the people who the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, because the Nabi ﷺ said, they exit Islam and they don't come back to it. And Nabi ﷺ clearly stated that they are the exit, يخرجون من الإسلام يمرقون من الإسلام لا يعودون إليه. And Nabi ﷺ said that if I see them, I will kill them the same manner as if I had with them. So, or it doesn't matter even if you said they are Muslims, but the point is, the point is not to judge them here in this session. The point is the Khawarij, they said, if you commit a major sin, Al-Khawarij said, if you commit a major sin, you lose the name of Al-Iman. You lose the name of Al-Islam. You're not Muslim or Mu'min. Okay? What you become? Kafir. You following? The Mu'tazila also like them, but they are different. They said if you commit a major sin, you lose the name of Al-Islam. And you became what? Fasiq. Type Sunni also believe that you became fasiq if you consider a major sin. The Mu'tazila said no. For the Sunni, they said fasiq is part of Iman. You're fasiq, but you're still Muslim mu'min. And Mu'tazila said no. If you became fasiq, the Mu'tazila came with this idea, which is nobody ever said it before them. You became in manzila bayna manzilatayn. You became in between. In between what? Kufr and Islam. You're not a Muslim and you're not a kafir. What that means? Or in another word, they said, you are in this dunya taking the rules of Islam. So you should not be killed, you should not be treated as a kafir, you should be giving zakat, your wife's still halal for you. In the dunya, you take the rules of Islam if you commit a major sin and you never repent from it. But in the akhirah, you're in hellfire forever. What a bad deal. You know, if they made the other way around, it would be much better. But, you know, better deal, that's right. But they said, so that's what in between. Ahl Sunnah al-Jama'ah reject that. They said, no, if you commit a sin, okay, yes, you're fasiq, but fasiq is still inside the circle of Islam. Your iman is less, but you don't lose the whole thing. What's the problem? The problem for those two groups, the Khawarij and the Mu'tazila, they see Islam like the plate, okay? Like one plate. Can you imagine if this plate made of ceramic? Okay? If I drop it, what will happen to the plate? Break. No plate. For them, that's Islam. Islam is like one piece. Okay? If you lose part of it, the whole thing what? Shatter and collapse. Okay? For us, we say no. Islam is like this. You take a piece, you still have a plate, but you have a hole in it. You're missing a part. You do another thing, you lose. And you come back and you fix it. You know, you make istighfar and you fix it. And we don't see Islam as one lump sum thing, you know. It's either you lose it 100% or you have 100%. It can be divided. That's why Iman can be divided. Is that clear? So that's one side of the extreme. The other side of the extreme, they said, Al-Islam and Al-Iman is one big thing also, but it's the opposite. It's like the rubber, like a rubbery thing. It will never break. You know, you threw it, you did, it is complete, it is perfect. Islam never, the only way you lose your Iman if you become kafir. Otherwise, you make sin, you don't make sin, it is one thing. That's why for them, Al-Iman, sin will never affect it. Your Iman is perfect if you drink day and night. If you steal, if you gamble, if you fornicate, if you do all evil things, your Iman is still 100% perfect. Did not change, because for them Iman is what? To believe that God is what? Exists, or truth. So as long as this didn't touch, your Iman is what? Perfect. And because of this, they have another problem, that they believe all people in their Iman is what? Equal. So they said there is no difference between you and Jibreel, or you and Muhammad, and you and Ibrahim, all of you, because there is no like, as Ibrahim knows that Allah is the truth, and you know Allah is the truth, how can you be a different? Jibreel knows that this is true, and you know, like you and the drunk and the Muhammad ﷺ and Jibreel and the fornicator and all of them are in their Iman equal. Did you see how messed up this is? So you have that extreme group. On the other hand, Ahl Sunnah said, no, how can you say that? People in their Iman, they don't lose Iman by sins completely, but they lose Iman in a sense their Iman became less. Even if we say Al-Iman is to believe in Allah's truth, Even believing in something as truth is different from one person to another. Do you think believing in the truth of Muhammad ﷺ was the same between Abu Bakr and anybody else? No. Even the concept of tasdeeq has levels. Even the concept of faith has levels. So no, you can't say it's one thing. So when he said they are in the middle between these two groups, which is Al-Murji'a wal-Jahmiyyah, because Al-Jahmiyyah also said the same thing. Al-Jahm ibn Safwan is the first person who came with the concept of Al-Irja'. What's Al-Irja'? Al-Irja' هو تأخير العمل عن الإيمان. Al-Irja' means to delay or to push back. So they said Al-Iman must be separated from actions. Can anybody tell me why? Why they said Al-A'mal, action, cannot be part of faith?
Because they said it's all, everybody has the same.
Because everybody will not be the same if you put the action inside. If you put the action part of the component, it means that more action, it means more Iman. Less action, less Iman. And that's not acceptable. So because of that principle, they came to the evidence and that confirmed the Iman, the A'mal, action part of Iman, and they rejected it. And they said we don't accept it.
How do they explain good actions then?
Hmm?
How do they explain good actions? If someone does more good, it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. But there is something we're going to talk about it in a little bit more. So, but in generally speaking, they said it doesn't really make a difference. Okay. So Ahl Sunnah al Jama'ah became in the middle when it comes to the name. So we say for a sinner, he's mu'min, but he is fasiq with his major sin. We will not say he's a mu'min like the perfect mu'min. No, he's mu'min, but he's fasiq. He has some right as a Muslim to me, even if he commit the sins, like the love, the brotherhood, and the more righteousness he has, the more good deeds, the more right he has. So the rules goes with it. The Khawarij said you make a sin, a major sin, you're out, all the rights you lose, you're in hellfire. You see, the rules goes with it. From the window, they threw it from the window. And the same thing, the Murji'ah said, no, Islam is, you're perfect, you're in Jannah, you cannot ever go to hellfire if you never be touched by hellfire, if you are a believer, you have the faith. Ahl Sunnah al Jama'ah are middle between this. Also they are middle when it comes to the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, between the Rafidah and the Khawarij. The Khawarij said all the companions, especially Ali radiallahu anh, kuffar, and Ali is kafir, and they killed Ali actually, they murdered Ali, they murdered Uthman, they could make takfir to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And Al-Rafidah, on the other hand, became so extreme for Ali radiallahu anh, and they so extreme against the rest of the companions. Ahl Sunnah in the middle, they said we accept all the companions. We don't accept Ali and reject Abu Bakr, or reject Ali and reject Muawiyah, or accept Muawiyah and reject Ali, or accept Uthman. We accept all of them. Consistence in the middle between these two, between these extreme groups. The word Al-Rafidah, the word Al-Rafidah, it basically as a title, it came in the time of Zayd ibn Ali ibn al-Hussein. Okay, and this is during Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, Ahad Khulafa Bani Humayyah, because the people went to Zayd, before that known as Shia. And the word Shia in general it's a term to show just the love and support for Ali. But the Rafidah, the name came in the time of Zayd ibn Ali ibn Hussein, because some people went to him to rebel against the Umayyad. But they said, if you want our support for you against the Umayyads, you have to curse Abu Bakr and Umar, and to reject Abu Bakr and Umar. You have to say, I don't accept Abu Bakr and Umar. And he said, no, I will never do that. And Uthman, obviously, he said, I will never do that. Because he refused that, they said, we're not gonna accept you. And he said, so you are rafadtumuni, you rejected me. And that's where the word Rafidah comes from, because they rejected Zayd ibn al-Hussein. They rejected him because he rejected cursing or freeing himself from Abu Bakr and Umar. So Al-Rafidah, it became a title to refer to those who hate Abu Bakr, hate Umar, hate Uthman radiallahu anh wa arda. And Shia became a title for those who love and favor Ali over others. But they still accept Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. So that's for a long time, that's the name. Rafida for those who hate Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. Shia, it's for those who favor Ali, but they still love Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and accept them. So that's a distinguish between the two. Later on, the Rafida included groups like the Ismaili and other groups who rejected actually Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu wa arda. And all these Ismaili, Musawi, all these names comes because either they follow one, it's called Ismail or Musa al-Kadhim or names, and they were named after. So Ahl Sunnah in between these two extremes. Well, this will come to end of this paragraph. Go pray and come back to continue inshallah ta'ala.